Silence fell for half a beat, the kind that makes a studio feel like a living room, when Dreyer said, "There was something we could not fix." It was plain, unguarded, and heavier than any tease before a commercial break. On Today with Jenna and Friends, she chose to name the truth on live television, not as a spectacle, but as a simple line in the sand between what had been and what must be next. If you want first-hand updates on stories like this as they unfold, hit subscribe and turn on your bell. It actually helps you catch the facts as they happen. Dreyer's choice to speak publicly, for the first time, about her separation from Brian Fichera was not framed as a twist or a cliffhanger. It was an act of housekeeping, the kind families do at the kitchen table when the kids are at school and the coffee has gone lukewarm. She acknowledged that the conversation had already been happening privately for months, long before the July announcement, and that the decision to share was about clarity rather than curiosity. Viewers, she implied, deserve an honest headline, one that respects their attention and their empathy. In my experience, that kind of transparency lands because audiences can smell the difference between a press release and a person telling you what is really going on. The timeline matters here, probably more than we think at first. By the time the public heard the word separation, the couple had already lived inside it, tried to understand it, and tested whether it might soften with time. That matters because it turns a social media post into a chapter marker rather than a spark. The months before July, the long talks, the tentative experiments to repair what had frayed, all of that gave context to her sentence, "There was something we could not fix." It is not a shrug, it is a diagnosis. And once you have a firm diagnosis, you can plan care, not just treatment. Care, for Dreyer, sounds like reframing. She described a relationship that has shifted from marriage to close friendship, a move that is both ordinary and brave. Ordinary because many couples arrive at the same calculus, brave because declaring it publicly invites projections, second-guessing, internet commentary, the whole chorus. She met that chorus with gratitude, thanking viewers for respecting the family's decision and the pace of their private journey. Gratitude is a soft shield, but it is still a shield. It asks for gentleness without demanding silence. She also said the quiet part out loud, that both she and Fichera tried to repair the marriage. There is comfort in hearing that, maybe even relief. We like to believe that effort can always reverse decline, that more dates, more therapy, more weekend getaways will inevitably flip the script. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do not. Accepting the second outcome, without bitterness, is harder than any curated anniversary post. Dreyer framed that acceptance as peaceful, not triumphant. Peaceful acceptance means the story is not about winning or losing, it is about ending one chapter with dignity so the next one is not poisoned at the start. Grace and kindness kept showing up in her language, and then came the line that will travel far beyond the segment, "I can be a better friend than a wife." That is not a failure confession, it is a role correction. Some partnerships thrive when the titles change, because the expectations change with them. Friendships can carry delight without carrying demand. They breathe differently. And, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that honesty also frees the other person from trying to be what they cannot be anymore. You hear that, and you imagine two people setting down a heavy bag they have carried too long. The center of gravity in her story, though, is the children, Cal, Ollie, and Rusty. Co-parenting is where lofty words are tested by logistics, by Tuesday math homework, by a stomach bug the night before a presentation. Dreyer described unity in the basics, consistent love and consistent communication. That is how stability looks to a child, not as perfect parents, but as predictable ones. True co-parenting, the kind that keeps kids anchored, prioritizes their emotional weather over the parent's pride. It is hard work. It is also possible when the adults agree that the relationship has changed, but the responsibility has not. Talking to kids about separation requires language that fits their age, and Dreyer said she has leaned on one lesson: family means love, not titles. That teaching clears away a lot of fog. Children often worry that words like divorced or separated are traps that will take away birthdays, traditions, silly inside jokes. Defining family by love tells them the rituals can stay, even if the calendar looks different. It tells them that the floor beneath them is still solid, even if the furniture has been moved around. Daily life, as she sketched it, continues with surprising familiarity: school drop-offs, family dinners, the choreography of an ordinary week. There is comfort in that picture. Stability is built from repeated motions and shared meals, not statements. Separate addresses can still house the same rules about kindness at the table and homework before screens. The continuity lets grief do its work without turning the house into a museum of what used to be. Maybe that sounds small, but small is where children live most of the time. Dreyer did not pretend that serenity arrived on its own. She talked about faith, therapy, and acceptance, the trio that many couples rely on when the dream they started with changes shape. Faith offers a larger story, one that can hold disappointment without naming it doom. Therapy gives tools, better questions, clearer boundaries, less guesswork. Acceptance ties them together, allowing a person to stop bargaining with reality and start building inside it. She described genuine happiness and peace, which, oddly, are often easier to reach when you stop arguing with the facts of your life and start cooperating with them. If you are listening for a pattern here, it is this: accepting that a relationship has broken can bring more peace than forcing a fix that will not hold. That is not cynicism, it is stewardship. There is an old analogy I like: if a bridge is compromised, you do not keep sending heavy trucks over it to prove your devotion, you redirect traffic and preserve the structure that remains. Love does not always vanish after separation. Sometimes it evolves, it becomes friendship, respect, a reliable team for the kids' soccer schedule. That is a dignified ending, and a decent beginning. Open, age-appropriate communication with children does something else too. It inoculates them against the idea that change equals danger. When you show them that schedules can shift and the center still holds, they learn a skill that will serve them in school, in friendships, in their own adult relationships. Healing, as Dreyer hinted, is less about perfection and more about courage, the courage to choose peace over the performance of having it all together. I think many families will hear their own quiet story in hers, and maybe feel a little less alone. So here is where we land. A public figure used her platform to state the emotional truth, to mark the timeline honestly, to thank the audience for gentleness, to name the work that was tried and the peace that followed when it did not work, to define co-parenting by the children's weather, to teach that family is love, not titles, to keep the ordinary routines that make a home feel safe, and to credit faith, therapy, and acceptance for the calm she now carries. If this story matters to you, or if you want steady, respectful coverage of how public lives intersect with private choices, hit subscribe and turn on your bell. You will get first-hand updates right when they break. The lingering thought is simple and a little stubborn. What if the bravest version of love is not holding on at any cost? It is knowing which form of love truly blesses everyone in the room, then choosing that form with kindness.